The city was silent that night, the sky heavy with smoke and the streets covered in broken light from dying lamps. A human man named Daniel walked slowly back from the factory, his boots heavy with dust and his shoulders tired from long hours of work. He was used to walking alone. His home was small and hidden on the edge of the alien district, where many humans never dared to step. But that night something was different. He heard a sound, soft and weak, like a whisper carried by the cold wind. At first he thought it was only his mind playing tricks, the factory noise still echoing in his ears. Yet the whisper came again, faint but clear this time. "Feed me and I'll serve you." Daniel stopped. His heart beat faster. He looked down the alley on his left. It was narrow and dark, shadows hiding every corner, a place where thieves waited or broken souls hid. His common sense told him to walk away, but his feet would not move. He stepped closer. The smell hit him first, a mix of damp stone, spoiled food, and something sharp like rust. Then he saw her, a figure crouched low against the wall, thin arms hugging her knees. Her skin was pale and marked with faint glowing patterns that flickered weakly, like a lantern running out of fuel. Her eyes, large and trembling, lifted toward him. She spoke again, her voice rough and cracked. "Feed me, and I'll serve you." Daniel froze. He had seen beggars before. Alien children with empty hands, old women trying to sell broken trinkets. But this was different. She was not begging for coins. She was offering herself. She clutched an old pair of boots, holding them out as if they were treasure. He could see she was starving. Her cheeks were hollow, her lips dry and cracked. Her hair, silver in the dim light, was tangled and dirty, yet her eyes still carried a strange glow, fragile, but stubborn. "Why me?" Daniel whispered under his breath. She did not answer, only held the boots tighter and tried to rise, but her legs shook and she fell back against the wall. The street behind him was empty. No one was watching. Still, Daniel felt the weight of unseen eyes. In this city, helping an alien girl could bring punishment. Many humans kept their heads down, pretending not to see. It was safer that way, but Daniel was not sure if he could just walk away. He stepped closer until the shadows fully revealed her face. She looked younger than he first thought, maybe just past childhood, yet her body showed years of hunger and suffering. "Feed me and I'll serve you," she repeated, softer now. Her voice was breaking. Daniel reached into his bag. He had only a small loaf of bread left, saved from the factory canteen. It was meant for his supper, but his hands moved before his mind could stop them. He tore the bread in half and held it out. The girl's eyes widened. Her hands trembled as she reached, almost afraid it would vanish before she could touch it. When her fingers closed around the bread, she pulled it close and took the smallest bite, chewing slowly as if every crumb had to last. Daniel expected her to eat fast, to grab the rest and run. But she did not. She ate carefully, like someone who had learned that too much food at once could hurt. After a moment she looked back at him, her voice still weak but steadier than before. "Do I belong to you now?" The question struck him like a blade. He shook his head quickly. "No, you don't belong to me." Her eyes searched his face as if trying to see if he was lying. Then she lowered her head, whispering, "Everyone takes something. No one feeds for nothing." Daniel felt a cold weight inside his chest. The truth of her words was sharp. This city was cruel. No kindness was ever free. Yet here she was, expecting chains for bread. He wanted to say more, to ask her name, to ask where she came from, but footsteps echoed at the far end of the street. Heavy boots, soldiers maybe, or patrolmen. Daniel's stomach tightened. If they found him here with her, questions would follow. Questions that could ruin his life. The girl looked at him with wide eyes, fear rising as the sound grew louder. She pressed herself deeper into the shadow, still holding the bread close. Her glowing patterns dimmed almost to nothing, like a candle about to die. Daniel had to choose. Walk away now and save himself, or stay and risk being caught. His heart pounded. His hand tightened around the other half of the bread still in his grasp. The boots grew louder, closer. The girl whispered again, desperate this time. "Feed me, and I'll serve you. Please. And in that moment, Daniel knew nothing would ever be the same again. The night pressed heavy over the city, but Daniel's mind felt heavier than the air. He stood frozen in the alley, holding the last piece of bread in his hand while the girl crouched before him, clutching her half like it was the only treasure in the world. Her glowing marks dimmed, her breath shallow, yet her eyes never left him. The footsteps faded away. Turning down another street, the danger passed for now. Daniel let out the breath he had been holding. The girl looked at him carefully as though she had been waiting for his decision. "Do I serve you now?" she asked again. Her voice was stronger than before, though still cracked like broken glass. Daniel shook his head. "No, you don't have to serve me. Just eat. Rest." But she didn't seem to believe him. Her fingers clutched the bread so tightly her knuckles turned pale. She whispered, "There is no food without chains. Tell me what I must do. Tell me how I must serve." The words cut through Daniel. He had heard of such things before, alien girls and boys forced into service just for scraps. It was the rule of survival here. Nothing came free, not kindness, not bread, not life. Yet hearing it from her lips filled him with anger he didn't expect. He knelt down to meet her eyes. "I don't want you to serve me. You are not my property." Her eyes widened as if the very idea was impossible. She tilted her head slightly, confusion mixing with suspicion. "Then why feed me?" she asked. "What do you want?" Daniel opened his mouth, but no answer came. What did he want? He didn't know. Maybe it was because he couldn't stand the sight of someone starving. Maybe it was because her voice carried such desperate honesty. Or maybe because deep inside, he remembered the days when humans had also begged in these streets, forgotten and broken. He placed the rest of the bread in her hands. "Take it, all of it, eat." The girl stared at him like he had just done something dangerous. Her hands trembled as she pulled the loaf close. She took small bites, chewing with care. It was painful to watch. Someone so young eating like she had to teach herself not to choke. The silence stretched, broken only by her soft chewing. Daniel looked around nervously. Every shadow felt like an eye, every sound like a threat. After a while, she whispered again, her voice steadier. "You will regret this, human. If someone sees me with you, they will say I belong to you. They will say you bought me." Daniel frowned. "I didn't buy you. I just gave you food." She gave a faint, bitter laugh. "Food is a chain, human. Always has been. It binds tighter than iron. You may think you freed me, but the city won't see it that way." Her words unsettled him. He knew she was right. If others saw her, they would assume the worst. Already rumors spread fast in this district. A human with an alien girl would never be forgiven. Still, Daniel couldn't leave her here. Not in this alley, not in this state. He could already see her legs trembling, her body weak. If he walked away now, she might not survive till morning. "What's your name?" he asked, trying to shift the weight in the air. She hesitated, chewing the last crumb slowly. Finally, she whispered, "Leora." "Leora," Daniel repeated softly. The name felt strange and yet familiar on his tongue. "I'm Daniel." For the first time, she looked at him without fear, though her eyes still carried doubt. She hugged her knees again, whispering, "You should leave me, Daniel. The chains will find me if you don't, and they will find you too." Daniel shook his head. "I can't, not tonight." He offered his hand to her. She stared at it for a long moment as if expecting him to pull it back or strike her. Finally, slowly, she placed her trembling fingers in his palm. Her skin was cold, her body weak. He helped her stand. She was lighter than he expected, as if her bones were hollow. She swayed on her feet, but his arm steadied her. The alley seemed darker now, more dangerous. Daniel led her toward the street, keeping close to the walls. His mind raced. Should he take her home? Could he even protect her there? Already he could imagine the whispers of neighbors, the suspicion in their eyes. Still, he kept walking, guiding her step by step. "Why are you helping me?" Leora asked suddenly. Her voice was soft but sharp, like she didn't want kindness without reason. Daniel looked at her and said quietly, "Because someone should." She stared at him, confused again, as though those words made no sense. No one had ever helped her without price. No one had ever said she was worth saving. The night deepened as they reached the edge of the human quarter. Daniel's small home stood ahead, silent and plain. To most it was nothing but stone and wood, but to him it was the only safe place he had. Now he wondered if it could be safe for her too. Leora stopped at the doorway. Her eyes flickered with fear and mistrust. "If I go inside, it means I am yours," she whispered. Daniel shook his head firmly. "No, it means you're safe." For a long moment she stood frozen. Then, with a breath that sounded like surrender, she stepped inside. Daniel closed the door behind them, his heart heavy. With the choice he had just made, somewhere deep inside, he knew this was the beginning of something he could never walk away from. The small house was quiet, only the soft crackle of the lamp filling the silence. Daniel guided Leora to a wooden chair. She lowered herself carefully, still clutching the last crumbs of bread as if afraid someone might steal them. Her glowing patterns flickered weakly across her skin like faint stars ready to vanish. Daniel moved to the shelf, pouring a small cup of water from a clay jug. He set it before her. She hesitated before lifting it, her hands trembling. She drank, slowly, each sip careful, like a person who had gone too long without water. When she finished, she lowered the cup and whispered, "You should not have done this." Daniel leaned against the wall, his arms crossed. "Why?" She looked at him with eyes that seemed older than her face. "Because kindness is dangerous, it always costs more than chains." Her words pressed heavy on him. He knew she was right. Already the risk was growing. If neighbors saw her, questions would come. Soldiers did not need reasons, suspicion alone was enough. Still, when he looked at her small frame shivering in the chair, he could not imagine turning her back to the alley. "You can stay here tonight," Daniel said, his voice steady but his heart uneasy. "Tomorrow we'll see what to do." Her eyes widened, a flash of fear. "If I stay, I belong." "No," Daniel shook his head firmly. "You belong to no one." For a long moment she stared at him, trying to find the trap in his words. But there was none. She hugged her knees close and lowered her head. For the first time her breathing slowed, the tension easing a little. Hours passed. Daniel sat at the table watching the shadows shift across the walls. He could not sleep. Every sound outside felt sharper, every creak of the floorboards louder. He kept wondering, what had he done? Bringing her here was not a small act, it was a choice that tied him to danger. Near dawn, a knock rattled the door, sharp and sudden. Daniel's heart jumped. He moved quickly, pressing a finger to his lips to silence Leora. She froze, fear flashing. Across her face, her patterns dimmed until they were almost invisible. "Daniel," a voice called. It was his neighbor, old Marek, a man known for watching too closely. "I saw your lamp still burning. You working late?" Daniel forced his voice steady. "Couldn't sleep." Marek chuckled outside, though the sound carried no warmth. "Careful, friend. Sleepless nights make for careless days." The footsteps moved away. Fading into the street, Daniel let out a breath. Leora unclenched her fists slowly. "That was close," she whispered. Daniel nodded, his jaw tight. He knew it would not always be so simple. Later, as the first light touched the window, Leora finally spoke again. "You can send me away now, it will be safer." Daniel shook his head. "If I send you out, you'll starve. Or worse." She lifted her eyes, her voice sharp with pain. "Then why keep me? Do you want me as servant? As trade as?" Her words broke. She could not finish. "No," Daniel said firmly. "I want you alive." Silence followed, heavy and strange. Leora looked at him as though trying to see through his skin, trying to find the reason hidden in his heart. "Finally," she whispered. "Then you are a fool." "Maybe," Daniel replied softly. "But I've already chosen." That day, he gave her clean clothes from an old trunk, They were worn and patched, but far better than the rags she wore. She dressed slowly, her thin body trembling with effort. When she stepped from the small room, Daniel almost did not recognize her. Even starved and weak, her glowing lines returned faintly, tracing delicate shapes across her arms. She looked less like a shadow and more like someone alive again, but danger grew thicker around them. By evening, word had spread of soldiers searching for a missing girl. Patrols doubled. Questions were asked in markets and streets. Daniel listened, carefully, his chest heavy. At supper, he placed another loaf on the table. Leora stared at it with wide eyes. 2 nights in a row, she whispered. That makes me yours, completely. Daniel sat across from her, his voice quiet but sharp. No, it means I will not let you die. Her eyes glistened. She looked down quickly. Hiding her face for the first time, tears fell silently onto the table. She wiped them away fast, ashamed to show weakness. Daniel felt the weight of his decision harden inside him. There was no turning back now. He had chosen to defy the way of the city, chosen to protect her, and no matter what came, he would not let her go. Outside, the night deepened. Shadows thickened around the house. Somewhere in the distance, the sound of boots echoed again. Closer this time. The choice had been made, and its price would soon come due. The night felt endless. Daniel lay awake on his small bed, listening to the creaks of the house and the distant sounds of soldiers in the streets. Leora slept in the next room, though even in sleep her breathing was shallow, as if fear never fully left her lungs. He closed his eyes, but his thoughts refused to rest. He had chosen to keep her safe. But now he wondered what kind of storm he had invited into his life. Morning came with pale light filtering through the cracks of the window. Daniel rose quietly and found Leora sitting at the table. She was awake long before him. Her glowing lines were brighter now, faint but steady. She looked less like a ghost and more like someone returning slowly to life. Still, her eyes carried shadows. You did not sleep, Daniel said. She shook her head. Sleep is dangerous. Dreams make me weak. Her words confused him, but he didn't press further. He placed a small plate of bread before her. She stared at it as though it were a trick, then ate slowly, careful as always. After a long silence, she spoke, her voice low. Do you know why they search for me? Daniel paused. The question carried a weight he had not wanted to face. I only guessed, he said. You escaped something, didn't you? She nodded slowly. Her fingers traced the table's surface, drawing patterns in the dust. I was not always in the street. I was not always starving. Daniel leaned closer. She did not look at him, her eyes fixed on her hands. My family, they were not poor, not powerless. We were part of the houses, one of the ruling lines. She paused, her voice trembling. But I was cast out, declared worthless, left to rot. They said I was broken, cursed, unfit to carry the blood. Daniel's chest tightened. He had heard rumors of the houses, alien families who ruled with wealth and fear. If she was truly from one of them, then helping her was even more dangerous than he imagined. Why would they cast you out? He asked carefully. She lifted her sleeve. The glowing patterns across her skin pulsed faintly. These marks, she whispered. They say they mean weakness, that I was touched by failure before I was born. To them I am a shame. Daniel stared. He did not see weakness, only a faint beauty in the light across her skin. But he could see how others might twist it, turn it into chains. So they left you to die, Daniel said, anger rising in his chest. Leora's lips curled into a bitter smile. Not just left. They wanted me forgotten. The houses cannot show mercy. Mercy is weakness. Weakness is death. She looked at him suddenly, her eyes sharp. Do you see now? By feeding me, by hiding me, you challenge them. They will not forgive. They will not forget. Daniel held her gaze. Then let them come, he said quietly. I will not hand you back to chains. Her eyes softened, but fear still lingered. You are foolish, she whispered. But perhaps foolishness is better than cruelty. The day passed slowly. Daniel worked in the corner, fixing tools for the factory, but his mind stayed on her words. He kept glancing at the window, expecting soldiers to appear. Every knock or sound outside made his heart tighten. By evening, the neighborhood was tense. Patrols walked the streets asking questions. Daniel overheard neighbors whispering about a runaway girl. Some claimed she was dangerous. Others said she was cursed. The fear in their voices was worse than hatred. Fear could spread like fire. Inside, Leora sat quietly. She barely moved, her ears sharp to every sound. "They will find me soon," she said. "It is only a matter of time." Daniel shook his head. "Not if I protect you." Her eyes filled with something strange. "Not quite trust, not quite disbelief," she whispered. "You don't understand. They will not stop, not ever. Because if I live, their shame lives too." The words chilled him. He realized then that she was not only a runaway, she was a symbol of defiance. Her very survival was a threat to those who had abandoned her. That night, the sound of boots echoed again, louder, closer. Daniel peered through a crack in the window. Soldiers marched down the street, their torches casting sharp light across the walls. Neighbors stepped out nervously, answering questions with bowed heads. Daniel turned back to Leora, her face pale, her hands shaking. "Hide," he whispered. He pulled up a loose board beneath the floor, revealing a small dark space he had once used to store tools. "Stay there, don't make a sound." She crawled inside without a word. Curling into the shadows, Daniel covered the space quickly, just as a fist slammed against the door. "Open!" a soldier's voice barked. Daniel's heart pounded as he unlatched the door. The soldiers stepped inside, their eyes scanning the small house. "We search for a girl," the leader said. "Thin, silver hair, glowing marks. Have you seen her?" Daniel forced his voice steady. "No, haven't seen anyone like that." The soldiers moved through the house, checking corners, opening doors. Daniel stood firm, trying to keep his breath calm. Every step they took above the hidden space felt like thunder in his ears. He prayed Leora would not breathe too loud. Finally, the leader sneered. "Be careful, human. Those who hide runaways pay with blood." With that, they left, slamming the door behind them. Daniel waited until the street fell silent, then pulled up the board. Leora crawled out, her eyes wide with fear, her body shaking from holding still so long. "They will come again," she whispered. "They always come again." Daniel placed a hand on her shoulder, steady and firm. "Then we'll be ready," he said, his voice low but sure. He had made his choice, and there was no turning back now. The raid had passed, but the weight of fear still filled the air. Daniel sat at the table long after the soldiers left, his hands pressed tight against the wood. Leora sat across from him, her body trembling, her glowing marks dim and fading. The silence between them was heavy, broken only by her weak breath. "You should not risk yourself," she whispered. Her voice cracked, her throat dry. "I am not worth this danger." Daniel shook his head slowly. "You are alive. That is worth more than fear." Leora lowered her gaze, shame flickering in her eyes. She touched the bread crust left on the table, but she did not eat it. Daniel noticed, her hands shaking, her skin pale. He realized then that her body was not just thin, it was broken by years of hunger. Her stomach could not handle food like his. Too much at once might kill her. He rose and took a small pot from the shelf. He filled it with water and grain, heating it slowly over the fire. Leora watched him with wary eyes. "What are you doing?" "Making food you can keep," Daniel replied gently. "Soft food, slow food." Her lips parted as if she wanted to argue, but no words came. Instead, she sat quietly, her hands folded tight. When he placed the warm bowl before her, she looked at it with suspicion. Then slowly she lifted a spoon. She tasted it carefully, letting it rest on her tongue before swallowing. Her eyes softened. A spark of warmth flickered in her glowing lines. She whispered, "It does not hurt." Daniel smiled faintly. "Then eat slowly, one spoon at a time." She obeyed, eating with care. Each bite brought a little more color to her face. Her shoulders relaxed, her trembling eased. It was as if life itself was seeping back into her body. Daniel watched quietly, something heavy lifting in his chest. When she finished, She set the spoon down carefully. Why? She asked again. Why do this? Every time you feed me, you put yourself in danger. What do you gain? Daniel thought for a moment before answering. I gain knowing someone didn't die tonight. She stared at him, confusion and pain mixing in her eyes. Finally, she whispered, No one ever fed me without a price. You are strange, Daniel. That night she slept more deeply than before. Daniel checked on her often, making sure she was breathing. Her face looked softer in sleep, younger, almost peaceful. For the first time since he found her, he believed she might survive. Days passed, and Daniel continued to feed her carefully. He gave her soft meals, small portions, and water. He found herbs from the market, mixing them into broth to ease her stomach. Each day her strength grew little by little. She could stand longer, walk steadier. Her glowing patterns brightened. Not weak flickers, but steady lines of light across her arms and neck. One morning she caught her reflection in the small cracked mirror on the wall. She froze, staring at herself. Her hand touched her face as if she could not believe the girl looking back was her. Tears filled her eyes. I look alive, she whispered. Daniel stood behind her, his voice quiet. Because you are. But safety was fragile. Outside, the city grew harsher. More soldiers patrolled the streets, searching houses, asking questions. Neighbors whispered more, boldly now. Some claimed the missing girl was dangerous, cursed. Others said she carried secrets worth killing for. Daniel heard two men speaking at the factory. If anyone hides her, they'll burn with her, one said. Better to hand her in and take the reward. The words gnawed at Daniel's thoughts. He knew it was only a matter of time before someone grew suspicious of him. Still, when he returned home and saw Leora sitting by the fire, warming her thin hands, he knew he would not betray her. That evening, as she ate another careful bowl of broth, she spoke again. You cannot keep me here forever, Daniel. They will search every street, every house, and when they find me here, you will pay too. Daniel met her gaze. Then we'll find a way to keep you safe. Leora shook her head. You cannot fight the houses. They do not forgive, they do not forget. They will tear this place apart brick by brick to find me. Her fear was sharp, but beneath it was something else. Guilt. She feared not just for herself, but for him. Daniel reached across the table, placing his hand gently over hers. She flinched at first, unused to touch without harm, but then she let it stay. Listen to me, he said softly. I will not let them take you. No matter what happens, you are safe here. Her eyes shimmered. With unshed tears, she whispered, Safe. No one ever said that to me before. That night, Daniel prepared a hidden corner under the floor with blankets. He showed her the space, telling her it was only for emergencies. Leora touched the soft fabric and whispered, You think of everything. Daniel smiled faintly. Not everything. Just enough to keep you breathing. The days turned into a fragile rhythm of healing and fear. Leora grew stronger, but danger pressed closer. Soldiers searched more houses. Reward posters spread on walls, and whispers grew louder. Someone would betray them soon. Daniel knew it. He just didn't know when. But for now, inside the small house, there was warmth, a fire, food, and a fragile promise between a broken alien girl and a stubborn human. And for the first time in her life, Leora allowed herself to believe in the word she had whispered. Safe. The night was colder than usual. The wind carried the smell of smoke and iron. Daniel sat near the window, his eyes fixed on the empty street. Leora rested by the fire, her glowing lines faint but steady. She had grown stronger over the past days, her cheeks no longer hollow, her voice no longer just a whisper. Yet fear never left her eyes. The city outside was restless. Soldiers had searched the northern quarter. Earlier, dragging people from their homes, Daniel had heard the shouts, the breaking of doors, the cries of families begging. He knew it was only a matter of time before they reached his street. Leora sensed his worry. She looked up from the fire. It is tonight, isn't it? She whispered. Daniel turned to her, surprised by her calm tone. What do you mean? They are coming, she said softly. I can feel it. The houses do not stop, not until their shame is buried. Daniel walked to her side. If they come, you will hide like before, only this time no sound, no movement, do you understand? She nodded, but her eyes were heavy with sadness. I should not hide while you face them. I should go to them. I should end this before you suffer for me. Daniel shook his head sharply. No, don't say that. Your life is worth more than their cruelty. You are not theirs anymore. Her lips trembled, but she said nothing more. She leaned closer to the fire, hugging herself tightly. Hours passed in tense silence, then it came. The sound of boots marching in rhythm. Daniel's stomach twisted. He moved quickly, lifting the loose boards on the floor. Leora crawled inside, her glowing lines dimming almost completely. He placed blankets over her and whispered, No matter what you hear, stay hidden. She grabbed his hand for a brief moment, her eyes wide with tears. Promise me you will not fight them. Promise me you will live. Daniel squeezed her hand, but he did not speak. He lowered the board gently, covering her in darkness. The pounding on the door shook the house. Open, by order of the houses, a soldier's voice thundered. Daniel opened the door slowly. His heart pounded, but his face stayed calm. 5 soldiers stood there, their armor gleaming in the firelight of their torches. The leader stepped forward, his eyes sharp. We search again. A runaway is near. Silver hair, glowing skin. Have you seen her? Daniel met his gaze. No, I have not. The soldiers pushed inside without permission, searching every corner. They overturned chairs, pulled open drawers, and scattered what little food he had. Daniel clenched his fists, but forced himself. Still, the leader moved close, his eyes narrowing. You work late hours at the factory, don't you, human? Strange how often you stay out after dark. Daniel swallowed. The factory demands long shifts, the soldier smirked. Or perhaps you wander where you should not. Perhaps you pick up things that don't belong to you. His voice carried sharp meaning. Daniel held his ground. I bring home only dust and broken tools. The leader's smirk faded. He gestured to 2 men. Search under the floors. Daniel's chest tightened. His eyes darted to the corner where the boards covered Leora. Sweat ran down his neck. He tried to step forward, but one soldier blocked him. The soldier knelt, knocking on the wood. The hollow sound echoed. Daniel's pulse thundered in his ears. Leora was beneath that very spot, holding her breath. Before the soldier could pry the board, a shout came from outside. Captain, another lead. The girl was spotted near the river. The leader turned sharply, anger in his eyes. He cursed under his breath, then waved his hand. Leave this place, we waste time here. The soldiers stormed out, their boots pounding against the street. The door slammed behind them. Silence filled the house again. Daniel waited until the echoes faded. His knees felt weak as he pulled up the board. Leora crawled out slowly, her face pale. Her hands shook as she clutched his arm. They almost found me, she whispered, her voice trembling. Daniel placed his hands firmly on her shoulders. But they didn't. You are safe, do you hear me? Safe. Tears filled her eyes. She shook her head. Not safe. Not here. They will keep coming, and one day they will not be called away. They will find me, and they will take you too. Daniel's jaw tightened. He knew she was right. This night was only a warning. The houses would never stop if she stayed here. They would both be destroyed. He sat by the fire, staring into the flames. His mind raced. There was only one answer left. They had to leave the city. They had to vanish before the next raid. Leora sat beside him, silent for a long time. Then she whispered, I told you to let me go, but you didn't. And now I cannot leave you, even if it means my end. Daniel turned to her, his voice steady. Then it will not be your end. It will be our beginning. We will leave together. She blinked, stunned by his words. For the first time, true light flickered in her eyes. Not fear, not despair, but hope. Outside, the soldiers marched farther. Into the distance inside the small house, 2 choices had become one. Daniel had chosen long ago to protect her, but now the path was clear. They could no longer hide. They would have to run. And when the night finally settled into silence, Daniel knew that everything had changed. The raid had not destroyed them, but it had sealed their fate. The night after the raid felt endless. Daniel did not sleep. He sat by the fire with his bag half-packed, tools and bread laid out on the table. His eyes were fixed on the doorway as if soldiers might return at any moment. Leora lay curled on the bed, though she did not close her eyes. Her glowing lines pulsed faintly, steady but tense. She too knew they had no more time. At dawn, Daniel stood and placed his hand gently on her shoulder. "We leave today," he said softly. Leora sat up slowly, her silver hair falling across her face. "Leave? Where?" she whispered. "The city stretches far and the houses watch every road." Daniel looked at her with firm eyes. "We will not take their roads. We will take the wild paths, the old river trail. If we stay here, they will tear this house apart. If we run, at least we have a chance." Her lips trembled, but she nodded. She pulled the cloak he had given her tight across her shoulders. For the first time in years, she did not look like a beggar. She looked like someone about to walk into a new life. They slipped out before. The streets grew busy. The sky was pale gray, the city still waking. Smoke from the factory stacks covered the air. Daniel guided her through alleys and side streets. Keeping low, his heart pounded at every corner, expecting soldiers to appear. At one crossing, a patrol passed so close that Daniel felt the ground tremble under their boots. He pressed Leora against the wall, shielding her with his body. She held her breath, her fingers clutching his sleeve tight. Only when the soldiers were gone did she whisper, "They are everywhere." Daniel nodded. "Then we keep moving." By midday, they reached the broken gate at the edge of the district. Beyond it stretched the wild lands thick with trees and hills. The old river trail ran through it, forgotten by most. Daniel knew the way from his childhood. He had played there before the war had torn everything apart. The path was rough, roots twisting under their feet. Leora stumbled more than once, but Daniel caught her each time. She grew tired quickly, her strength still fragile, yet she never asked to stop. She pushed forward, her glowing lines shining brighter under the forest shade. That night they made camp near the river. Daniel built a small fire, careful to keep it hidden from sight. He shared the last of the bread with her. She ate slowly, as always, then looked at him across the flames. "You gave me more than food," she said softly. Her eyes glistened. "You gave me life. But I fear one day the houses will find us. They always find what they want." Daniel stared into the fire, his voice calm but strong. "Then let them come. I did not save you to give you back. I saved you to keep you safe. Forever." Leora's lips parted, her eyes wide. She had heard many promises in her life, but never one like this, she whispered. "Forever? No one ever said that to me before." The next days were hard. The forest paths were steep and wild. Rain fell, soaking their clothes. Food grew scarce. Leora grew weak again. Daniel carried her more than once, his back aching, but his steps steady. Each time she begged him to leave her, each time he refused. "We finish this together," he said finally after days of struggle. They reached a ridge overlooking the valley. Beyond the trees stretched open fields, villages far away, and a horizon free of patrol banners. The houses did not rule here. This was land forgotten by power. Leora stood beside Daniel, her eyes wide, at the sight. The wind lifted her silver hair, her glowing marks bright under the sun. She looked like someone reborn. Tears filled her eyes as she whispered, "I thought my life would end in a dark alley, begging for bread. I thought I would never be more than a shadow, but you gave me more." Daniel placed a hand on her shoulder, steady and warm. "No more chains, Leora. No more hiding. You are free now. And as long as I breathe, you are safe." Her tears fell. But this time, they were not tears of fear. They were tears of hope. She leaned against him, her small frame shaking, and for the first time since he found her, she smiled. Behind them, the forest whispered with danger. Ahead of them, the fields whispered with promise. Together, they walked forward, leaving the city and its cruelty behind. The houses might still search, soldiers might still march, but in that moment the chains were broken. A human had chosen not to own but to protect, not to take but to give. And as the sun rose higher, Leora whispered one last time, her voice trembling but strong. "I asked for food, and you gave me. Forever." Daniel held her close, his heart steady. "Forever," he repeated, and together they stepped into a future no chains could touch.